In this video, I'm going to show you how I straighten off the wavy top and bottom edges of an Attic24 neat ripple blanket. It's not as complicated as you might think, as it just involves using different height stitches to fill in the gaps. For this tutorial, you will need an Attic24 neat ripple blanket all ready to have its wavy edges straightened, a hook, some scissors and some yarn. I'm using the same yarn that I'll be using to work the border on my blanket. Just a reminder that I'm going to be using UK crochet terms throughout the tutorial. So what we're going to be doing is just working another row at the bottom and the top edges of the blanket, and we're just going to be filling in these little gaps where you've got the dip that the wavy edge produces. So we're just going to use different height stitches to work across these little dips. I'm going to start by working along the top edge of my blanket. So make a slip knot, pop it onto your hook, and then join with a slip stitch into what would be the top of the turning chain from the previous row. So just a slip stitch to join there. I'm now going to skip the next stitch, which is this one here. I'm not going to work any stitches into that one, just skip it completely. And the reason that I do this is I find that when I then work the border on my blanket, my border is a lot straighter and my corners are sharper. So I like to skip that one. And then we're going to work a double crochet into the next two stitches. That's 1, 2. So you've got 2 double crochets there. Into the next stitch, work a half treble crochet, and into the next 4 stitches, work a treble crochet. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and now you can see the different height stitches are starting to fill in that gap. So into the next stitch, we're going to work a half treble crochet, and into the next 2, a double crochet. So that's 1, 2, and then into the next 4 stitches, we're going to slip stitch. So that's 1 slip stitch, 2, 3, 4. And you can see there, if I take my hook out, you can see there that we've got a nice straight edge and we've filled in that little gap that the wavy stripes produces. And we're now going to go on to the next gap and kind of repeat the process really. So first of all, a double crochet in each of the next 2 stitches. Next, a half treble crochet. Into the next 4, a treble crochet into each. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Into the next stitch, a half treble crochet. And into the next 2 stitches, a double crochet, and across the next 4 stitches, a slip stitch into each. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'll just take my hook out again and show you. So there you go, you've got a nice straight edge there, and those 2 gaps, those first 2 gaps are straightened off. And we're just going to continue the process across that top edge of the blanket. So I'll talk you through it once more. So first of all, a double crochet into each of the next 2 stitches. A half treble crochet into the next stitch. A treble crochet into the next 4 stitches. A half treble crochet into the next stitch, a double crochet into the next 2 stitches, and then slip stitch across the next 4. There we go. So we've filled in the next gap along. I always find it quite satisfying to see those gaps filled in and a nice straight edge. So I'm going to continue along the top edge of my blanket now until I've filled all the gaps in. So I'll meet you once we get towards the end and show you how we just deal with that last little bit at the end. So I'm almost at the end now. I've filled in all the gaps along apart from this last one. So I've just finished the 4 slip stitches and I'm going into the double crochets. So that's 2 double crochets, 1 half treble, 4 trebles, one half treble, 2 double crochets, and then as before I skip the next stitch and work a slip stitch into that very last stitch there, and you can fasten off your yarn at this point, and that's your top edge all done and nice and straight. We're now going to work along the bottom wavy edge of our blanket, and we're going to be working the stitches into the foundation chain that we made when we first started the blanket. So make a slip knot and pop it onto your hook. We're going to join our yarn right at the very start of that foundation chain. So in the very first stitch, might be a little bit difficult to see, but once you get it, you just wiggle your hook in. And we're going to join this time with a double crochet. Oh, hang on, lost it. So with a double crochet and a chain 1, and that's going to represent our first treble crochet. We're not going to skip any stitches along this edge, so I'm going to go straight into another double crochet into the next stitch of our foundation chain, and then a half treble crochet into the next stitch of our foundation chain, and then a double crochet into the next 2 stitches of that foundation chain. We're then going to work a slip stitch across the next 4 stitches. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. This edge is a little bit more difficult to work, as you often find the foundation chain is a little bit tighter, so it's a bit harder to see the stitches, but just keep wiggling your hook through and it will work out fine. So we've filled in that first gap there, and now we're going to go into the next little gap. So a double crochet into each of the next 2 stitches, so it's the same pattern that we used along the top edge, and then a half treble crochet into the next stitch, and then a treble crochet into each of the next 4 stitches. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Into the next stitch, work a half treble crochet, and into the next 2 stitches work a double crochet. That's 1, 2, and slip stitch across the next 4 stitches. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll take my hook out so you can see. So there we are, you can see the nice straight edge forming there. So I'll talk you through the next gap. So once again, repeat the pattern. So it's a double crochet into each of the next 2 stitches, a half treble crochet into the next stitch, a treble crochet into the next 4 stitches. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. into the next stitch is a half treble crochet, and into the next 2 stitches it's a double crochet, and then finish off with your 4 slip stitches. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's your next gap straightened off. So I'm going to keep working along the bottom edge of the blanket now and fill in all but the last gap, and I'll meet you once I get there. So I'm almost at the end now. I've just got this last little bit to straighten off, and I've just finished doing the 4 slip stitches. So next we do a double crochet into each of the next 2 stitches, and then our half treble crochet into the next stitch, and then a treble crochet into the next 2 stitches. And that's finish the bottom edge off there. Got it all nice and straight. Now, if you were using the same colour for your border now, you wouldn't need to fasten off. You could just crack on with your border. As you can see, I haven't sewn any of my ends in yet. Less said about that, the better. So I shall probably park this now and sew in all my ends before I then do my border. If you were wanting to use a different colour for your border, then you'd fasten off now, and then when you're ready to do your border, just join with your new colour. Hopefully you can now see that straightening these wavy edges is simpler than you thought. Thank you very much for watching, and if you'd like to see more of my tutorials, come and subscribe to my channel. Keep up to date with what I'm making by following Little Duff Crochet on Facebook and Instagram. Until next time, bye!